Well, Joss Labadie, welcome to the 1912 XLs podcast. It's great to have you on.
Thanks for having me.
So, before we get into your time at Newport, you signed for Headlands Town after a couple of years with Solihull. So, how did that deal come about?
Yeah, it come about in January, if I'm honest. I mean, I weren't playing as much as I would have liked at Solihull, and the manager, Gavin Hurren, got the job there, and they asked me if I wanted to come down. Um, and then there was a change of manager at Solihull, so I ended up staying, played a few games to the end of the season. Then, yeah, the option to go there came about this summer, and yeah, I signed about 3 weeks ago now, so I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, nice. And I mean, you said it kind of came about in January. So, is that like the kind of time when, yeah, players, yourself, and other people are kind of looking at what's going to happen next season, and you're kind of like just sort of putting the feelers out almost?
Yeah, 100%. I think, like for me, I had 6 months left on my deal with Solihull, so, I wasn't playing, so it didn't look like I was gonna get a new contract there, so that's when you start to, put feelers out, managers, touch base with players and just try and prepare themselves for the season ahead, and, Gavin was a new manager at Hensford at the time. He'd gone in January, and he was looking to recruit, players that played in the league and at a higher level. And yeah, I went down there to have a look around the club, and it looks really promising. It's a really good project, so I'm looking forward to it.
Great stuff. Great stuff. Well, we'll keep track of your career there, Josh, obviously. But let's go back to Newport. We'll do a little bit of time at the port, and then we'll cover some time of what you're doing outside football as well, because I think that's interesting as well. Loads to cover at Newport, I think. That was the club you spent your most time at. You were at Dagenham, weren't you? I think for a couple of seasons before you joined Newport. What made you join Newport? Was there anything in particular? Was it an easy decision? How did that pan out? I know we're going back a little bit, but
I think, what was it? Would have been maybe 2015, 16. I remember I played against Newport for Dagenham, drew 2-2, and Warren Feeney became the manager in the summer, so I met up with him. Great guy, had some really good ideas. And yeah, it's just something I committed to and I wanted to be part of. Didn't go to plan in the early days at Newport, and we struggled, and we had a few different managers. Warren ended up leaving, Wesley come in, and then Flinney got the job. And yeah, we kicked on from there, and it was probably yeah, it was definitely one of the happier times in my career, and I thoroughly enjoyed my time there.
Yeah, you mentioned, yeah, you sort of like go through quite a few managers, and you said you perhaps like it was I don't know, you saw the plan, you saw the project. Is that what kind of like entices you to a club, particularly like at the peak of your career? Because I think you probably would have joined like, yeah, mid to late 20s. So this is like where the trajectory is going. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I spoke to a few clubs at the time. I wanted to be situated in the Midlands, and Newport's only an hour, 20 minutes. So I ended up, when I was there, I stayed down a few nights a week, which got me away from the kids, which was lovely. And then, yeah, I was just looking forward to the challenge, and I was coming into my prime there. First season, don't think I had a few injuries, so I don't think the fans see the best of me. Then the second season, when Flinney got the job, we assembled a really good team. We had the likes of Matty Dolan come in, Frank Newball, Ben White, and it was a really good place to be.
we were both, me and Jamie were really interested because when you, after that injury, you came back in just at the sort of time, I think, when Wesley was getting the boot one league, when we were really struggling. And as fans, we were thinking, oh my God, and then that's when the great escape started to happen, when you sort of came back into the team, didn't you, at that point? I think we lost, I think we lost 4-0 home to Leyton Orient, like when we were thinking, this is looking not good. And what was that like for you coming like back into the team at that point? And then thinking, were you thinking we can get out of this? What were you guys thinking?
I'm always pretty optimistic, so until it's impossible, I'm always like, yeah, we can do it. But yeah, it was pretty bleak times. I'm not going to lie. I think the boys were a bit demoralised, and after the 4-0 as well, it wasn't great. I think was that Wesley's last game, was it? It might have
Yeah,
been.
yeah, yeah.
Can't remember the game after that. Was it Crew? Was it? Uh,
Yeah, I think there was like it was like a tight win possibly away at Crewe or home to Cardiff, I can't remember now, but it was I think the Leighton game, unless Wikipedia is incorrect, I think that was your first game back as well after like 3 months. So we're that just in time for the Great Escape. It's all on you, Joss, honestly, the Great Escape.
Well, I wouldn't go. That was I think Crewe was the next game, and I think I scored the last minute winner. I was absolutely horrendous in that game, and I was blowing out my arse. But yeah, we needed to get a goal, scuff one in, and then I think after that the boys started to believe that we had a chance and we had a bit of momentum, and then we went on a really good run towards the back end of the season. Obviously, we stayed up last kick of the season with Mark O'Brien. Yeah, the place just went wild, didn't it?
What was it when it started to turn? What was the? Because it'd be bleak for us as fans, and then you're starting to think, "Can we get out of this? Can we get out of this?" What are you guys thinking in the changing room, and what's the atmosphere like? Do you just get on a bit of momentum and think we're going to do this, or
Yeah, do you know what? I know things didn't work out for Graham Wesley, but he assembled some really good players who went on to be legends at the football club, like your Mickey Demetrius, Mark O'Brien, and we actually had a good nucleus of players. And then Finney come in, and he took the pressure away from the boys, and he just said, "Look, this is what it is. Just go out and play." And we didn't really have any particular structure, but he instilled a lot of confidence in us, and we had some good boys there. So I think that was half the battle, and we had a good dressing room. So I think once you string a couple of wins together, I think we got a draw at Morecambe after that. It might have been, and then we just went from strength to strength. I think we had a result in there? We got spanked by Plymouth.
Plymouth? I remember that one.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
even after that, we were still really optimistic. And I think when you start to look at the league table and say, like, our last game, we need to win, obviously dependent on Hartlepool's result. Yeah, I think we always kept the faith.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was a seven wins in 12 games under Flynn in that back end of the season, which is like remarkable if considering that the other results that happened. So you got through that first season, and then like all of a sudden, like you said, there was a good core, a good nucleus of players, which Flynn then sort of built on, and then all of a sudden we're looking at from just scraping by and getting saved to these sort of magical cup runs. And like we got to talk about the cup runs because Newport as a city came alive. I mean, how was that for you? I mean, let's take like, I don't know, the Spurs game to start with. Do you soak up the atmosphere in the build up to that week, or do you just try and block it out? What's your like process for like a big game like that?
I think for me personally, it's excited nerves. Obviously, you're playing against players that are leagues above you, world-class players. Harry Kane played on the day, all internationals, and I think I was up against Dembele, Wanyama, and it's a good test. You want to see how you compare, because I had a couple cut runs before that, but you want to see how you compare against these sort of players. So I think you do up the levels slightly, and it was a great occasion. And to be fair, we should have won. I lost Harry Kane in the last minute. And he scored the equaliser, but I think everyone was quite happy because it was our first trip to Wembley, the team. So, yeah, it was a great experience.
It was brilliant, and I mean, I'm interested what you touched on there, Josh, about the sort of the different levels of players. I mean, obviously, if as fans were playing around you, we wouldn't see you for dust, right? No chance. But what's it like for you as a pro and playing against players who were in the Prem, who are internationals? What is the difference like? Is it really noticeable for you guys, or how does it feel?
Exciting, especially when you've got a home tie. I mean, the replay, it was at Wembley. We couldn't get near them, to be fair. It was a bigger pitch. It was like a carpet, but with you fans behind us on that day, I think there was about 10,000 there, wasn't there? It was
Yeah.
the place was bouncing. Yeah, it was unbelievable. Great experience.
Yeah, I mean, do you still have that halftime analysis on the match of the day, like somewhere saved? Because I distinctly remember them like looking at you doing these marauding runs, chasing down balls, and like they were honestly, Gary Lineker and co are just loving it. You must have that saved.
I actually don't. I wish I had Sky TV. I did see it back. I think my mum and dad recorded it at their house, so I have watched it back a few times, and it's a great memory for me to have, not just for me, but for all the boys as well, because there were some great performances that day.
In the early parts of that match, though, were you like looking around going, these guys aren't up for it at all. We've got a chance here.
Well, we had them on the ropes, I think, didn't we? We started really well.
Yeah.
I've cut one back to Frank Nooble, early doors, and I think he's took a bobble and he's hit over the bar. But when things like that happen, and the further along in the game you start to believe, and then Podge scored the header. But yeah, they was there for the taking that day, obviously, with the utmost respect. But that's why they're the best in the world, because they keep going to the end, and they've ground out a draw against us and got the replay and ultimately gone through. So yeah, no, it was a great day all round.
Yeah, like I said, we adored the cup runs. There were some magical times for us, and you know, I mean, the Leeds win as well. Everyone goes on about the Spurs game, but I think the Leeds win, that last minute winner, rising header from a corner, it was just yeah, a day as well in the sunshine in January.
Yeah, it was brilliant. Not just the Newport fans, but any fans in general. Like, you don't realise how much of an effect that you have on the team, and I think that's one of the things. At that point in time, we knew that the Newport fans were behind us 100%. We was doing pretty well in the league up until the cut run finished as well. I think we might have been third or something. But yeah, it was a great place to be. Everyone was enjoying their football, and yeah, the cut runs just added to that.
So that's a good point, because it's a cliche that, like, cup run's a bit of a distraction for teams from you know, the bread and butter of the league and stuff. But like, do you actually feel it is, or do you just feel like, I don't know, you're just coming up, you know, you're just like hitting a purple patch of form and then just having a natural dip in the season like every team does? Or was it genuinely a distraction for you, would you say?
The hard one is because I think after the Spurs game, I think we played Lincoln, and I think we might have lost 3-0 away at Lincoln. And that's what everyone said at the time. They said the FA Cup run was a distraction. And
That was a Tuesday night game. I was at that.
and I think you're on such a high from playing against these world-class players. No disrespect to Lincoln, because we were League Two players at the time as well, but it's almost you're a bit deflated from there. And then you're playing at Lincoln with the utmost respect. But yeah, I think it probably is a distraction, but it's a good one.
Definitely. And Josh, you were, you know, we've been talking since you've left, basically every season. When are we signing the next Josh Labadie? Right, that's what we talk about. But you know, you were loved by us as the fans, and pretty much for your style. It was all action. Yeah, there was bookings and all that sort of stuff, but it was an all action style. You played in quite a few different midfield positions for us. I thought there were sometimes you were like more of a sort of almost like an aggressive pressing sort of attacking sort of midfielder, and then sometimes you were sort of playing more defensive role. Like, you know, I don't know if you think that's fair, but what did you prefer? You know, if you had, do you just go where the manager tells you to go, or do you really think, actually, I want to be doing this? This is where I like to play.
Yeah, no, I'll play wherever the manager wants me to play. I think predominantly I started off as a bit more of a defensive midfielder, then more of an 8, and then I think where I was most effective for the team was in like a 10. It wasn't like a
Yeah.
proper 10. It was like a higher pressing 10, where you press the defenders, don't give their deep line midfielder any time on the ball, and then that's how we used to start the majority of our attacks, and it worked for us. I think I was playing that role when we played Tottenham, and then in my last year when we got to the playoff final, it was like Josh and deep lying, me slightly advanced, and then until we went back, it was Scott Twine who was playing the 10, and that worked really well as well. So yeah, I enjoyed both roles. Whatever the managers wanted me to play, I'd happily play. But yeah, as long as I was effective for the team, I didn't mind.
I think for me that sort of aggressive pressing role is like what I like seeing you play, almost like a bit like what McTominay does for Napoli now, with that sort of midfielder, but pushing in and you know, creating a bit of chaos, really. And I think, you know, obviously you were an aggressive player, and I think that's a good thing. You know, I like to think. But how do you do? Obviously, reffing's changed, doesn't it, over the years? You know, in game, how do you react to like how a ref is reffing that individual game? And have you noticed how sort of reffing's changed, you know, across your career?
I'd say when I come out of the league and I signed for Solihull, it was a bit different, but definitely in my Newport days and then my Walsall days, I think my reputation preceded me, and I think that I probably got more bookings than what I probably should have because of my reputation. That I was aggressive, and referees would do their research and say, "Oh, he's had so many yellow cards. We'll book him on early doors, and then that'll give us an easier ride for the rest of the game if he's on a bit of a tight hook." But yeah, that's just the way I played. That's the style that I played, and I know I got a lot of yellow cards. But if I didn't and I wasn't as aggressive and tenacious, I don't think I'd be be the same player.
Yeah. And do you think, I mean, do refs do that? Do they look at teams and think, ooh, got a bit of a hard nut in the middle. We'll have to do something about that.
Yeah, 100%. I think they do their research. They know who gets carded the most. I'd always try and butter them up a little bit before and compliment them. But it never really worked, to be honest with you. Yeah, no, they definitely do their research.
Oh, amazing. Yeah. I just want to come back. You mentioned the playoff finals, and like we've got to touch on those as well because, yeah, I think the last season in particular, like I think the squad that was assembled around, yourself and yeah, Sheehan in midfield, all of the players, like it was incredible. Probably, I would say the best squad probably in your I mean, you might disagree with me, but I feel the best squad in your 5 years was that last season, and perhaps we deserve to go up in that second playoff final more than the first one. Is that sentiment kind of similar with you? Did you look at that team in 2021 and think, wow, what a team we've got around us?
Yeah, I did. We had a lot of quality in that team, especially with Josh Sheehan. He would dictate play every game. Towards the latter stages of his Newport career, he really come into his own. And you looked at it and you thought that we was probably the favourites to go up. We beat Morecambe previously away. I think we beat them 3-1, it might have been, or something like that. And we was the favourites, but for some reason it didn't work out on the day. I think we was a bit unfortunate with the decision. Referee gave a penalty, which was outside the box. I don't even think it was a free kick, to be fair, but it's just the way it goes, and you have to get on with it. You can't dwell on it. But yeah, it just weren't meant to be, which is a shame, because I think you look back on it there, and I think you would have had boys that ended up leaving, probably would have stayed. I probably would have stayed to play in League One. I ended up signing for Walsall because I'm based in the Midlands. That's where my based and my family was at the time. So that was my reason for leaving. I was 30, approaching 31. But yeah, I would have 100% stayed had we got to League One. And it was, yeah, I didn't know. I weren't sure how the next couple of seasons were going to go. I didn't know it was going to stay. I knew Shees was leaving. He was a big part of our play. And I didn't want to leave on a bad note. I wanted to, obviously it wasn't a high because we didn't go up, but I didn't want it to peter out, And
Yeah, I'd be interested you say that, because we were noticing that, and we're going through this now as we're rebuilding and trying to find this core group of players. So that team there, you were there for 5 years. We had other players that were there. Mickey Podge, Mike Dolan, Scott Bennett. There was a group there. Sheehan that were there for year after year. Does that help in terms of like staying in one place? Because a lot of League Two, you only get 1-year deals, don't you? And have to move on. So there's big churn a lot of clubs. And for us as fans, it was a great period for us because we had that solidity of a team, and it was almost like you were a bit of a family. It felt like to us. Is that what it felt for you guys as well?
yeah, it was, mate. I speak to a lot of managers now, obviously being an older player, new managers coming into the game. And I always tell them, I say that if you can keep the nucleus and the core of your squad for a few years, like we did, then you've got a good chance, or you have a better chance. I think that when you get to League Two especially, you're chopping and changing all the time. Managers are chopping and changing, and people always think they can get better for less money. But I think if you've got a nucleus and a good core together for a couple of years, that'll stand you in good stead, as opposed to changing the personnel all the time. And that's what worked for us, and I think that's why we've done so well.
Yeah, we're having that debate right at this minute about what's our summer going to look like. We've brought a lot of younger players through. We keep thinking we need some senior players alongside those younger guys we're bringing in. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. Not necessarily about Newport, but how you get there. What the blend should look like. Is it important to have that balance? I mean, do you remember when you started? Were you like as a young player coming through? Did you look to those sort of more experienced pros for the advice? And again, almost like when you became the captain, does that change your role in terms of how you support younger players?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, in tough times, you look to the senior players, see how they're conducting themselves, and you almost want a bit of reassurance and them to guide you. And that's what I try to do in the later years of my Newport career. But yeah, I think I was quite lucky being captain of Newport because we had such a good group that I didn't really, we managed ourselves. We had me, Mickey, Mark O'Brien, Matty Dolan, Jamil Matt was there as well. We had players all around the same age, all of similar interests, all with family, all with kids. So we knew what it was about. We knew what was required. So it wasn't a fact of me having to control the dressing room because there was loads of us that done it. So it was an easy job, to be fair.
Yeah, and I think you can tell that translates onto the pitch as well when there's a bit of stability behind the scenes. I mean, one thing I've always been curious about as well, speaking of like stability, but when there's instability behind this, I'm not saying like, there was at any point in your time at Newport, but like anywhere else, do you just sort of see like when there's like, I don't know, frictions between groups within the squad, does that really have an impact, or are you all just super focused? Like, we've just got a job to do on the pitch here. Don't really care if I don't really like you. I'm just gonna just get on with my job.
Yeah, it is hard. I've had instances as well where like you might get a couple of egos, and say if you're the captain, you have to try and stamp your authority down. But I never had to do that at Newport. At other clubs at Walsall, things behind the scenes weren't as rosy as what they should have been, and it does have a detrimental effect when you've got players who are not on board, or there's like say in any club there's like a hierarchy, and you need to have a mutual respect. And if someone is not respecting the other one, there's a problem there. And if you've got that respect throughout the camp, then you're onto a winner. But yeah, it's not always the case.
I'm often fascinated by when you get, that team particularly, really good solid pros like yourself and the people we mentioned, and then you slot somebody in like say Ben White, who's a young kid at that point, but he's coming in from like a Premier League club, and we've had plenty of those over the years. How does that work in terms of getting him to understand what it's all about, really? I guess.
Again, didn't have to do nothing with White. He come in, got on with his work, didn't really get involved, or he wasn't a massive character, but he was quietly confident. He knew that he was very good. He was secure in himself. So yeah, there was no problems there. But that's not always the case. Sometimes you get young players come in and they think because they've come from a Premier League club,
Yeah.
they're coming to a League Two, a National League club, that they're better than you, so to speak. And then that's when there starts becoming a problem. That's when the senior players that have been at the level, I don't know, Premier League, Championship clubs, like I have been with West Brom, and you just have to buy into it as a young player. But yeah, like I said, that's not always the case. But your boys like Ben White, Scott Swine,
Semenyo, was he?
Maynard, brilliant as well. Tyreek Backinson, Brandon Cooper, another one. But yeah, them boys when they all come in, they was fantastic. And like I say, you never had to do anything because they got on with their work. They bought into what we was about. And I still speak to Whitey occasionally now, and he's got really fond memories of Newport.
Oh, that's lovely to hear. I was going to segue into something else, but it's maybe less fond memories of your time at Newport, because you mentioned early on in our chat that you did struggle with injuries. You had some quite bad, like I think cruciates. I think you did a cruciate, did you, at one point? And I was reading as well, and I didn't actually remember this, but I think after your first contract ran out, you're effectively either released or you declined to sort of sign on again, and then you signed back on in October. What was like the conversation around that, and what was your thinking around that? Because obviously a huge injury, and you're sort of probably just desperate to get back to full fitness without having to even think about, right, what's the next contract?
Yeah, so that was my second year. So I had a really good year. We was doing really well, and then I ended up doing my ACL. No, sorry, in the January I had the option to go to Lincoln and Forest Green. I think they both bid £80,000.
Oh,
I
wow.
only had 6 months on my contract, and I turned them both down. And obviously being open and honest with you now, because I wanted to stay. I think we was third in the league this January, and I wanted to get Newport promoted as captain. That was a big thing for me. March comes, so after the Tottenham game, a trialist come in and he's fell on my knee, and he's done my ACL. But previously, I've been offered an improved contract to stay on at Newport. Then I done my knee, and then I was still promised the contract, and then the contract to come through to renew at the end of the season wasn't the same as what we agreed. So obviously, I didn't want to commit to that for a year, because obviously I knew
Hmm.
if I knew that I'd be back, and I got the deal that I wanted eventually. So I went away and done my rehab at Oxford United because Sean Derry, who had at Notts County, he wanted to sign me when I was fit. They was League One at the time, so I'd done all my rehab there, and then ended up re-signing. I had a few offers when I come back. Dino Marmaria was manager of Stevenage. He offered me a good deal. Notts County offered me a deal, and then Newport offered me a deal, but I didn't. And it was, Harry Kill was the manager of Notts County, but I knew that I wouldn't be up to the level required, especially coming in as like a well-renowned midfielder for the league. I knew that I wouldn't be up to speed, and I knew that the Newport fans would give me the time I needed to get up to the level that I needed to be, and my life wouldn't have to change. I wouldn't have to change, so I could still commute. I could still stay down, and so I ended up re-signing to the end of the season in, I think it was the October. So I was without clubs from the May to the June to the October. Re-signed to the end of the year. Ended up getting to the playoffs. Still didn't think I was at the level that I was at previously, and then re-signed, and then eventually ended up getting back to what I thought was the level in my last season with Newport. But yeah, that's the reason why I didn't sign for a while.
That's really interesting, really interesting. And thinking now, just sort of looking forward for you, obviously, you signed for Hensford, but you're also getting into insurance brokerage. That's right, isn't it? And moving on and thinking about the next bit of your career outside football, I guess. How do you make those sort of decisions? How do you get into that? Can you tell us a little bit about that and about what you're planning on that sort of side of things?
Yeah, so business and finance is something I've always been interested in. About 3 years ago now, I think when I'd done my ACL the second time at Walsall, passed all my exams, my finance exams, and become a protection advisor. So I specialise in insurance, injury cover, life cover, critical illness. A lot of my clients are footballers, but yeah, that's something that I'm into now. I've gone into that full time alongside part time at Hensford because we're only Tuesday and Thursday training. But yeah, something I thoroughly enjoy. Providing a service to not only football players but to everyday people as well. So people that have got mortgages, kids, jobs, I can insure them, and it's something I love doing.
Brilliant. And what sort of, I'm quite fascinated by how you make those choices. Is it just a natural, I was interested in this, or is the support available for players at the sort of lower leagues in terms of what's next for them? I mean, a lot of people go, well, it's coaching, but obviously there's a broad, there's incredible amount of variety of careers that people can move into, isn't there?
Yeah, I got approached by Marlon Jackson. I don't know if you remember him.
Yeah.
2 years. So he's an insurance advisor at the same company as me, True Life, which is actually based in South Wales in Caerleon. And he was speaking to me about it one day, and it was something I was interested in. So I thought I'd learn the ropes, done my exams, and all the work that I needed to do, and then become an advisor. And I'm enjoying it. We have a laugh, and we're providing a good service. And a lot of people don't, if they've got insurance already, they don't really understand what they've got, or how much cover they've got. And I just like to make them aware of what's available and what's suitable to their needs, basically.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great. And like, I love, like Ian said, I just love hearing about like what's set up for like post football career, because as we all know, it's a short career, and particularly with like injuries and stuff, it gets quite bad as well. Right. Let's round off. I've just got a couple of quick fires for you, Joss. Quick fire questions. What was the favorite game with the club? I mean, you can say the Tottenham game or whatever if you want, but is there like a game that's sort of a defining memory for you? Maybe one that we don't necessarily we haven't necessarily talked about. It's the one that you go, oh, that was a great day.
I enjoyed Notts County. I enjoyed the party after in Newport.
I bet you did. I bet you did.
There was about 1,000 people in this pub. And Gavin, the chairman at the time, he put a few people behind the bar, so that was nice. Got loads of beers bought for me. That was a great day. Obviously, the Tottenham one. Man City was a great occasion as well. Obviously, didn't touch the ball, but it's still nice to be on the side. But yeah, I've got the really fond memories, and it's not even just the matches, but even just like the place. It was buzzing. got some really good friends that I still speak to. Matty Dolan, Mark O'Brien, Dan Butler, Jamil Matt, who works with me at True Life, the insurance company.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Brilliant.
So he's doing that as well. Yeah, some great boys. We had a good bunch, like I said. But yeah, I've got some really fond memories from my time.
Oh, you're making us reminisce now. Sorry.
Yeah. Could you pick one of those? Oh, we were going to say this could be hard, but who was the best player you played with?
Best player I played with, for me, being a midfielder, Josh Sheehan that last season.
Oh, nice. And I've got one question as well for you. I was gonna ask the best player you played against, but then I realized you're probably gonna tell me like it's a Kevin De Bruyne or someone. But is there like a best, like, I'd say lower league, like League Two player that you played against? So you're like either you just had like this is just admiration for him, or you just absolutely hated playing against him because he was so good.
Trying to think of the big battles that we had. We had Lincoln, Woodyard, who ended up going.
Okay.
Right, he was a good player. Boswick at Lincoln, a few of the Luton boys. There's some good battles with them. There was a few battles I enjoyed, especially against the bigger teams in that league. They were the ones I looked out for.
Oh, nice one. Well, Joss, thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it. It's been genuinely fascinating. And yeah, just really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. I've loved it.
Have a good evening.
Josh.
Cheers.
All the best.
Thank you very much. See you later, boys.